another Draft Physics video presentation. I believe it's recording. So, a pyrrho response video. So he spends, something like the first minute and a half, and that's where I stop listening, premising his response to a specific argument on space and its nature, with a completely false premise about some statement I made some years ago in some ambiguous universe which we do not know exists. Some multiverse, I suppose. Nothing quoted, nothing referenced at all, and makes a claim that's just a frickin' lie. Okay, that's all. It's just a lie. So, typical of the people who don't have an argument, they have to contrive some sort of argument out of lies, out of false premises, out of deception, and absolute bullshit. Just shows their desperation, just shows how weak their capacity to make a rational argument is, that they have to create fake premises from 1942 to make their arguments.
Let me just start out while I'm in the testing phase by saying, Gary, I saw your video.
Apparently there's no point in you watching anything because you can't fairly paraphrase it or fairly argue what it said. You've constantly done this on the internet. I can show you many examples where he makes response videos to people he doesn't even know their name, doesn't even know who they are, references them as some completely different character. That's how little attention he pays.
Video reply to my space fabric section of my last video.
Yes, you're nonsense, you're gibberish, you're childish, so immature, undetailed, unevidenced little fairy tale you told about the truth.
Hello. So I guess it's working. So I've decided to reply to you. I have two replies. Really, just one.
Yeah, really just nothing. You have no capacity to make a rational or reasonable argument on any subject because you're an ill-informed jerk. And that's why fewer and fewer people, it seems, can even suffer your insufferable commentary because it is full of crap. You can't honestly argue a single subject.
But I've decided to separate out the scientific aspect and make an illusions.
Well, whatever this means, I've decided to separate any obligation to talk about anything real or anything like evidence, and I will again just assassinate your character and pretend I made a valid argument. So pretty much typical of the defenders of the truth, the defenders of the great religion, resorting to lies. Oh, what a surprise.
Number 50 episode. So new people just watching now.
Well, there's got to be maybe one idiot, who's gone this far and said this guy has something to say. He's after 15 years, he still has not figured out how the technology works.
Welcome. You're my favorite viewers. And let me just tell you that my debates with Gary and Menham go back quite a while.
Yes, he fooled me. He did waste my time. I did indulge him. And again, it can be demonstrated that he is incapable of honest behavior because he'll concede points one day and the next point pretend he didn't concede them at all. Just march along like nothing happened, like he didn't lose an argument.
Right. The first time Gary ever blocked me, and it's been many times since then, was because I was explaining that you can't go twice the speed of light.
Right. So he's asserting that I made some assertion he goes twice the speed of light. A complete fucking lie. That's why I blocked him. Is why should I tolerate a fucking overt lie? I never said it. I never implied it. That never happened. You're a fucking liar. I'm the one defending the speed of light, okay? I've always known the speed of light is the limit. Nothing goes faster than the speed of light. Let me give you some just simple reasons why I would never think such a thing. Because I know that if I go fast, right, I could throw a bullet at you, right? I could throw it as hard as I can, and it's barely going to even bother you, right? Just nothing. It's going to be a nothing event. But if I speed that bullet up a little bit, Yeah, all of a sudden it's going to have an impact on you. You're going to be a little worried about me throwing bullets at you. The fact is, the faster we go, just small speeds, 50,000 miles an hour, you're out of luck going anywhere in the universe because every single little tiny piece of dust now has 50,000 miles of speed. It's every piece of stuff is now going as fast as a bullet. Every single thing that weighs as much as a bullet would have just as much impact as a very high velocity bullet. Regular bullets only go 10,000 miles an hour, right? You might get one up to 15,000. Imagine 50,000. So when we sent a probe to Pluto to get pictures, they only had a 50% kind of likelihood that the damn thing was going to get there, because there was this real chance that this thing was going to hit something that was just a little bit too big and blow it up. And by too big, I'm saying, small, a lot smaller than the tip of this chalk. That's all it would take to drill a hole right through it. Those are the kind of things I've always known and always argued. So what I've argued about the speed of light is that if I do go the speed of light, not only will I change normal radiation, so I'm traveling now at the sea, okay? And I'm traveling, obviously, there's light going that's trying to catch up to me that never will, so I can't see anything behind me. And everything in front of me is now moving really fast relative to me, okay? Because I am moving very, very fast into it. So the speed is essentially doubled, right? You're going to double everything that's happening. Everything that's happening is now going to happen at twice the speed because everything that's called information is traveling this speed. Everything. So everything I'm going to see, everything twice as soon. I'm going to see everything that happens twice as fast. Something blows up over here, I'm going to see it twice as fast as I would have, because I'm going to keep shortening the distance between me and the event, and therefore I'm going to keep seeing things, all kinds of things. And also radiation will be the same way. So if something's, nice little harmless infrared radiation, all of a sudden that's ultraviolet radiation. Okay, and something that was ultraviolet radiation, all of a sudden now is X-rays, and X-rays are all of a sudden gamma rays. So everything I'm flying into, the information itself is getting hotter and hotter and hotter. Those are the things I've said. That's all I've said. I haven't said anything about anything going faster than the speed of light. I've never drawn a picture of this going twice as fast. Oh yes, let's speculate about what would happen if we went twice as fast as the speed of light. Because guess what? That is time travel, dumbass. Oh shit. Fuck you in this bullshit argument. This bullshit premise, this lie.
Right? And you can't even seem to go twice the speed of light. And
so again, you can seem, okay, to make light go twice as fast by moving into it, okay, twice, at its speed. So if I move into it, its speed, it will come to me twice as fast. I will receive the information of any event that takes place in the universe twice as fast if I'm moving towards the event at the speed of light. Fact. Can't be argued.
He thought that was unfair at the time. So at the time, he claimed, hey, I made an honest mistake.
No, I didn't say any such thing. It's absolute horseshit.
Since then, it turns out he didn't make a mistake at all, evidently, according to him.
Look, it's your assertion. You're going to assert somebody's lying, then all of my videos are there, so go find the video. You're the one making the assertion that I said physical things go faster than the speed of light. I never said they physically do that. What I said is, from all perception, it's going to be the same difference. From the view of how the universe is interacting with you, it's going to be a fact.
All right, Gary, this is more about space being a fabric. Now, the fabric, it's a foam.
So this is, the fabric is a foam. So why, are we going anywhere? Is there any hope for this conversation? The fabric is a foam. Okay, well then quit talking about a fabric. A fabric is linear. It's, got two dimensions. Foam is three-dimensional. Okay, what? It's a foam full of air? Foam full of what? How does this density of foam get changed? Little strings?
Foam, in the sense that we're inside it. And I'll get to how that could possibly be. What could be inside a foam? Well, just a weird part of the foam, right?
Oh, whatever that means. It's a weird particle. Look! We've already been over this. I mean, there's no point. You want to say Leonard Susskind doesn't know what he's talking about. You have a simple thing to explain. Okay, there's a convergence. It's the simple argument. Now, convergence can be an anti-divergence, as Susskind says. But we know what gravity is doing is it's doing this. Okay, there's this sense that anything in this field of any material object, every single material object is like a little drain. Okay, it's pulling, right? Because that's what you want to make it into. It's pulling on some kind of juice, some kind of fluid. The fluid goes down the drain and everything has to flow with the fluid. That's the simple explanation. That's how they describe it. Now, I can make a counter argument and say this has nothing to do with fluid. I mean, it has to do with actual little bits that are actually flying through space. And if I put any solid objects in a random field, they will, in fact, be pulled right into each other. Hossliday conceded this argument that if I just fill a box full of BBs and the BBs don't have anywhere to go, and then I put two solid objects inside that box of BBs, the simple truth is this one will block ones that are going to hit that one, and this one will block ones that are going to hit that one, and these two objects will do exactly what gravity does. That's the simple argument, that there's a simple explanation. You don't want to hear it, you don't want to deal with it, you don't want to counter-argue it, you don't want to say a damn thing explaining how it's wrong, you just want to promote your nonsense theory. Your convoluted magical theory. The magic foam pulls the stuff away. It consumes tons and tons of stuff. It never has to burp. It never has to throw it back into the field somewhere. It never has to come back into the universe anywhere. It's completely non-conservational, and there's no explanation of where the energy comes from. Your theory has no energy and no explanation.
Okay, so in the beginning, the way it was, and the way it seems to be, and I could jump ahead to number 3 here.
Yeah, why bother? This, what it seems to be. Why don't you cite some sort of evidence demonstrating it to be? There is no evidence. All there's evidence of is that gravity's like the opposite of a light bulb. Okay, instead of the energy coming out, somehow the energy's going in. Okay, but, I would clearly argue it doesn't go in anywhere. It's merely the fact is that the object is consuming energy in both directions. Heat. Gravity is heat.
Maybe number 3 is actually the first issue. Why waves?
So now he's going to change the subject to kind of a useless thing to do in the middle of nothing. Why change? Why are you jumping from subject to subject? Is that more evidence of the fact that you can't make a coherent set of statements defending your argument? The question isn't why waves. I gave you the simple argument. So why are we playing this game? The wave argument, it's a really simple argument. Waves emerge from particle behavior. A wave of soldiers. I can have a bunch of individual soldiers. They're not glued to each other. They're not tied to each other. They're not in any way related to each other. They're not brother and sister. Not any of that crap. They don't really give a shit about the other guy, right? This guy has his own cigarettes. He has his own fucking K rations. He has his own crap. He doesn't give a shit, and I can line them up, and I can have them attack a field, and this will look like a wave of soldiers. I can shoot bullets in exactly the same way. They're individual bullets. They're not connected to each other in any fucking way. Okay, so waves can emerge out of solid objects. Now we know what water waves are. Water waves are individual water molecules. There's no quantum bullshit going on. They're individual water molecules, and then we know when they go through a slit, what happens is the molecules here next to the surface get stuck, and they slow down. And they slow down. We know the mechanics. We don't need your woo. So that's a wave is an emergent thing. You're saying that a wave is some sort of elemental thing, that some elemental thing is creating some sort of wave, and the wave goes in all these places but somehow just magically hits here. That's their silly theory. The jellyfish jellyfishes into the medium. It creates a whole bunch of energy going in all kinds of directions, and then all of a sudden says, no, I take all that back. I just want to be here. It makes no sense. It has no continuity. It has nothing to do with the physical universe we know exists.
And the answer is because you guys all have particles, whether it's David DeHilster, or you, whether it's red.
Yeah, no. There's no similarity between the theories. So I'll just say you, just like the flat earthers, okay, believe in magical forces doing magical things. You believe in retractable energy and blah, 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 blah. I don't need to compare you to something stupider. All right? You deal with the real subject. The subject isn't a particle theory. It's a force theory. Two kinds of force, two kinds of matter, and two kinds of interactions. All right? And that simple mechanisms can explain everything. I don't need your woo.
Particles go through blue particles or whatever. There's always these particles have to be just slipping through each other.
No, nothing's slipping through each other. So again, you can't paraphrase an argument in any kind of rational terms. Just more nonsense. There's actual physical interactions proposed. Not ambiguous ones. Specific ones.
Some percentage of the time. Right? It just has to be. Well, if particles are going through each other, even one time in one special situation.
So again, what does this have to do with me? No, I don't have to defend myself against your insanely inadequate and inaccurate paraphrases of a theory. That's not what I'm proposing. They just magically go through each other. I'm saying there's very explicit rules. Very explicit rules for the interaction. There's very explicit rules about how rocks fall off of mountains. Now, you can't paraphrase that fairly. You say that the rock sometimes goes into the other rock and then it decides to pop out of the side of the rock. Or no, none of that. These are simple rules. Left turns versus straight through. That's too complicated for you. It's too complicated for you to fairly understand. There's 3 dimensions. Two of the dimensions are on the same plane, and that from an object's perspective, if there was no up and down, taking a right turn would be no different than taking an upturn. You can't understand that?
That's what implies they're waves. Because
there's no implication that there are waves. So I'm just saying, he says there's an implied wave somewhere. I can't for the life of me see this wave. You don't see it in a laser beam. You don't see it in all these things that are supposed to be waving. There's no evidence of any waves. There's no evidence that's any such thing. There's every bit of evidence, as Einstein got the Nobel Prize for this idea that there's a quanta of energy, a particle of energy, a clump of energy. But again, just keep saying that somehow everybody's supposed to believe in your God. I don't see the evidence of your God in the world. I don't see it anywhere around me physically. I don't see any of this quantum random bullshit.
Water waves, which is a very common...
There, so again, and we know the physical mechanics of water waves. I can put dye in the water and you can actually see the actual molecule slowing down. You can see how the wave is manifest from a bunch of particles that have adhesion, something photons don't have. You can see why water does what it does, because the molecules are attached to each other. It's a physical fact. You can watch it physically happen. There's no woo. There's no this molecule that went over next to the slit behaves exactly like the molecule that goes through the center. There is no such thing. There is no probability wave. There's no bullshit. The one that goes through the center always goes faster right through the center, and the ones on the side always go slower. Those are the facts.
Common experience that we have. Travel through each other and then keep on going.
So, more mush. This has nothing to do with anything keep on going, traveling right through each other. We know even transparent mediums end up slowing light down almost 50%, 43%. Transparent things slow the light down. The light doesn't just go through them. It's not just traveling through them. It's an actual physical event. What do you think it's being slowed down by? Moron.
If a particle goes through another particle and keeps on going...
All right, some more nonsense. Where did I suggest a particle goes through another particle? So here we go again. It's just more nonsense. There's no point in having an argument. You can't paraphrase anything honestly. Why should I have to argue your straw man? Why should I have to keep arguing your fake arguments? I've never made a video about particles going right through each other beyond just stating it doesn't matter. It just couldn't possibly matter, okay? In a field of energy, if two particles, the two like objects, hit each other and reflect perfectly, right? They hit each other at this point and reflect perfectly. What happens? Well, there's one particle going this way, and then there's one particle going this way. What happens if they miss each other? Oh, that's right. There's one particle going this way, and there's one particle going this way. Exactly the same universe exists. No way to tell it apart. And obviously, bouncing off, missing each other, and going through each other would all be identical.
That's evidence that it's a wave.
Again,
All right,
there's
so here's
no
the
evidence.
situation that seems to be the case. And again, new viewers.
So again, new viewers,
I
did you see how his evidence lacked the key component, which is actual evidence? Actual comparison to a real circumstance. There's no evidence in water waves of any quantum woo. There's no evidence that there's any probability that we can't discern from just looking at the equation and saying, yes, the molecules on the side are moving slower. We can see the physical cause of the effect.
Also believe in theorizing about natural philosophy. I just believe in sticking with the data that we have. So
all right, so he's not going to provide any of that. So again, he says, I believe in evidence. Well, you don't believe in evidence because I've cited the evidence and I've cited the flaws in the evidence, the gaping, flaws in the evidence. Have you dealt with any of those flaws in the evidence? Have you dealt with the fact that a diffraction gradient sends images of whatever goes in to the different locations, and that randomizing the event of going through a slit will not send an image somewhere? If you want to break or destroy an image, you randomize the pixels. That's how you destroy an image. That's not how you transmit an image.
far, including scientific aspects of society, right? So scientific results matter.
This is just religious. That's all it is. He has a religion. He believes. He wants to believe in something called free willpower-y thing. Some kind of will-free power. Free willpower. Willpower freeness. He's a religious kook veiling himself as if he has some education or some knowledge of science. His knowledge is weak, thin, and vaporous. It has no depth. He has no real understanding of any of the experiments conducted in physics.
I will go beyond those. I'm making interpretations of those.
You're just making crap up is all you're doing. You're faking, okay? You're saying the evidence says things it doesn't say. You lie about it constantly. You can't draw the two-slit experiment accurately to save your fucking life. You have no clue what the real evidence is and how the real experiments are conducted.
Plenty of room to make a mistake. I'm just honest. I'm just going to say how it seems like to me.
It seems like to me. Well, why should I be impressed by anybody who walks up to me and says, it seems like Mohammed seems like a reasonable story. You get these virgins to screw and stuff, and the snake god thing, you don't want to go to that snake hell, and that seems perfectly reasonable. It seems reasonable to me. Fuck you.
So it seems like there was a bunch of vacuum, and that's all there really is.
All right, so now he's going to play this game like he knows what the first universe was. He thinks all of that crap has any validity at all. I'm going to tell you what happened 13 billion years ago. Oh, sure you are.
Except there's also disturbances on the vacuum. The vacuum is in motion. Things are happening in it.
Yeah, the things in the vacuum. See, is there any point? There's a vacuum. Things are moving in it. Yeah, was I supposed to tell you where the things came from and what the fuck the things are? No, just ignore that. But yeah, those things are doing stuff in that vacuumy stuff.
The space, what I'm calling the vacuum, is...
Why don't you just deal with what we know exists, okay? Electrons, protons, neutrons. We know those are pretty reliable as little mechanisms. We know charge is pretty reliable as a mechanism. Why don't you explain it with your little ropey foam theory?
It's also called space. And there's disturbances in it.
All right, again, what this is worse than like a kindergarten religious class. Where they have like Jesus on a little mountain. Oh, and Jesus loved everybody and he petted the lambs, and it's just a little baby story. Little baby physics.
Now, space is made of all the different fields. There's many threads in space. The threads holding...
Yeah, whatever that means. So again, it's rope theory now. Okay. Oh, okay. Sure it is. The magical threads tying everything to everything. Oh, we're all part of the quilt of the universe. La 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 la. Fuck. So now he's doing string theory, as if anybody should fucking care. And this is a counter argument to, my video, where he quotes nothing from my video, quotes none of the points made in my video, nothing, and counter argues nothing.
The fabric of space together are little particles, little force carrier particles.
Little force carrier particles. What the hell does that mean? They have momentum? Because they're particles? Oh, particles with momentum? Little bullets, maybe?
And that travel through, you could always say that time is the thread, but it's the particle.
Time is a thread now. So time is some sort of thing that's threading through the universe. It's not just a consequence of the fact that we know the thing, the forces, the things that carry force. Those things all move the speed of light. That's not why there's time. Not because those things have a limit to their speed. That isn't what created time. Yeah, it is.
Making an arc that's holding the universe in terms of space, that's holding space together.
I mean, this really is actually worse than, say, the Christian biblical explanation that God just poofed everything and just put it where it's supposed to be. It's actually worse than that.
And all there is space and a lot of energy, a lot of disturbances. Now, when you have...
Disturbances doing what? Just being disturbed? Oh, I'm sitting here being disturbed. What are they doing exactly? Are they jellyfishing? Panicking? The water isn't watery enough. What are they doing? What are you talking about? So you have a vacuum, you have nothing, a nice blackboard, and now you're going to put something on the blackboard, and you say, I'm supposed to put threads on the blackboard. Okay, there are some threads. What are the threads exactly doing? Are they just threads? They just sit there and just be, I'm a thread doing absolutely nothing. What the fuck are you talking about? And then there's particles that just, I'm a particle. What the fuck is it doing? Is it moving the speed of light? What, it's a force carrier that just turns on or turns off? It just doesn't, It's not really oh no, I'll carry a force from here to over here, but only when you tell me to.
Water waves crossing each other, they'll, if two waves are going like this, then when they cross, they go up twice as high. Now, if they're very...
Yeah, and somebody can't figure that out, right? So, I mean, again, we know the physics of that. We know we can follow the actual particles, and there's more density of actual water. That's why it has to go higher, is because there's more density of fluid. Two dense portions of fluid are at specific intervals, and two dense portions are actually going to try to go through the same space at the same time. Now, obviously, they can't do that, so they're going to occupy more space. Duh. Where would I need quantum mechanics for any of that crap? Oh, that's right, I don't. And I don't need bent space to do that, and I don't need warped time to do that. So again, he's making the argument from particle Newtonian physics instead of the argument from wooey bullshit.
Strong waves, as they crest and cross, they'll spit drops of water, balls of water, out into the air. And what's going on?
Yeah, what's going on there is, that's right, they have a certain momentum, and when their two momentums combine, some of the objects end up going slower because they collide into each other destructively, and some will end up going faster because they'll end up hitting each other constructively. And when they go a little bit faster, they break the tension with the other water molecules. Again, this is physics well known. This is not physics that needs any interpretation. We know why the individual pieces of water gain more momentum and end up going fast enough to break their adhesion to the other molecules. So again, this isn't complex in any way whatsoever. This isn't the root of this subject at all. So again, here he's making arguments as if, I can prove my theory because, I can put my left foot out and step on the ground and it goes out further. And then if I pick up my right foot and throw it further ahead than my left foot, I will end up traveling distance. Isn't that amazing? Just going left, right, I will end up traveling distance. There, did I prove my theory? I mean, this is preposterously simpleton. Thank you, YouTube.
And cross, they'll spit drops of water, balls of water, out into the air. And what's going on there? Well, the waves, when they combined, was too strong for the medium, the water. Now in space, it's three-dimensional, just like underneath.
So again, the waves didn't do it. The individual particles have to interact with each other. The individual water molecules are the things carrying the momentum. So there's no, the momentum isn't in anything called a wave. Just like the soldiers, the wave of soldiers means absolutely nothing without the individual soldiers. The individual soldiers define the character of the wave, not the other way around. The wave doesn't tell the soldiers what to do. The soldiers tell the wave what it's going to be.
The water is three-dimensional. And the wave is traveling along. What if the energy of the wave is so strong, it overcomes the strength of, whatever space's surface tension?
So he had this thing called space. He turned it into something else. So he doesn't believe that space is space. He doesn't believe it's even threads. He believes that it's some sort of stuff, dominoes, some sort of compressible bits or something, some sort of stuff. But he won't define it. He won't say I'm an etherist. He won't say any. He won't use any coherent language to explain what he's talking about. How does that medium arrange itself? Because, frankly, from my understanding of physics, it's impossible. It's impossible to arrange your pieces of jello in some sort of matrix that will permit there to be straight lines, that will permit the phenomenon we see.
It also creates a bubble. And what it seems like is that when the energy is too great and it creates this bubble, it inverts space. It creates a little kink in space. That becomes a problem.
Oh, so this is just more baby talk. The inverted space. Why don't you just make a Ken Wheeler video? You and him should be big pals because this is gibberish.
Proton, or an electron, or a neutron. It actually becomes quarks that, if they're close to other quarks, can become those particles.
So let's understand. A quark has never been seen. It's only being surmised. There's no evidence of this quark. They will never show you a picture of a quark. There's no such thing except as a theoretical bit of crap they invented because they have a overview of a theory. And when they see a piece of energy, they always have to turn it into something and call it a name when it's not something you can name.
Particles are then inversions in space, little clamps. Little hernias in space. And over time, they'll decay. If you just leave a proton in space, flying through space, it has a long half.
Right, so they'll have no evidence of this. Never has it taken place. They've never done this. They've never converted an electron or a proton into anything called energy. They've never done it. They've surmised it. They didn't fucking do it. They made it up as a possibility. They didn't demonstrate it's possible.
Life, but eventually it'll decay back into energy and the kink will get unraveled. But while the kink is there, it's a lock. That's what makes mass.
See, it's just like something blipping off of a radar screen, right? I mean, the old radar used to just scan, right? So the thing would be there, and then it wouldn't be there, and then it would be there, and then it wouldn't be there. And, physics is falling for the same dodge. So in experiments, what happens is they know energy, a proton, let's say matter, is someplace. But the fact is their detecting equipment can't follow it through the real course of its existence, and so it blips off their little radar for a second, and they say, oh, it turned into quarks. And then they see it blip back on, and they say, oh, well, obviously quarks can't stay loose in the universe, so they recombined back into a proton, made a new plane. So it's like they see plane, and they say, oh, that plane disappeared. And then they see plane, oh, no, a new plane popped out of the universe. I mean, it's that silly. It really is that silly.
Causes a stretch on the space-time around it. Now you could ask, if the particle is a kink in space-time, how can it move around? How can it move in the foam?
This is just hilarious. I mean, he really thinks I'm supposed to just follow along with his... And then the Holy Ghost had a conversation with God, and God and the Holy Ghost were like, oh man, this twosome just isn't working, this dynamic duo, we're not really cool. We need a Jesus or something. We need to have a threesome, like the Hulk and Super Spirit Man and, Wobbles a Lot Man. We need to have like 3 superhero kind of men, Stretchy man, thin man, fat man, or something. We're just no good as just a duo. We need a triple thing. Yeah, so let's make a Jesus. So it's really the Holy Ghost who talked Jesus into it. I mean, God into it. Yeah. Now, yeah, you could waste my time doing that. Thanks. I really love when people tell me wonderful little stories. Fuck. So again, this has nothing to do with anything I said in my video. This isn't a response to a single fucking point I made, quite obviously.
Space-time is a foam. It stretches the foam and all that. How does it move around? Well, it's just like a kink in a piece of chain. You can roll that kink along. You can roll it back. And that...
A kink in a chain. Okay, can you really do that? I can just move kinks and chains around?
It's the mass. Mass is space that's been broken, basically, and inverted so that...
It's counter space! Inverty space! Oh, thank you, YouTube.
Basically, and inverted so that it's mass, and it causes a clamp and it grabbing then and containing the space around it, limiting it, creating a little dense space where energy has suddenly become a hard particulate.
Okay, so it'd be really interesting. It's just kind of funny, right? I'm arguing with the conventional theory as being rubbish, and he can't even defend the conventional theory, so he's just making up all this crap that he believes. This doesn't have anything to do with science. It doesn't even have anything to do with scientists. It just has to do with his own wacky little personal religious view. His own little totem pole. And so he's explaining why he has different little hobgoblins on his totem pole. This is just, yeah, right. Let's all go do that. Oh, pathetic.
Thing. And then around it, a relative vacuum. So it's not a vacuum, but a relative low pressure area.
It's not a vacuum. It's a relative vacuum. No, it's just low pressure. Okay. Yeah, I understand pressure. You want to make pressure in the universe? Fine. I'm all for it. I say there's a simple way to make pressure. That is, you just put BBs in it and you got pressure. So you're done. That's it. You don't need anything else. Just little BBs. Create all the pressure you need.
And an object in a high pressure area will move towards the low pressure area, just like all physics you've ever heard of.
Right, so another useless point. A point I have made in my own videos. That is why things move, is because you change the pressure around the object. Fewer pieces of energy hit something from one side than the other side, it will be compelled to move into the low pressure. That's exactly my argument, and yet he's preaching it as if, don't you understand this fundamental fact? Yes, I do, idiot. I've argued it in the videos, idiot.
And so that's what's going on. How do we move in this foam? Well, it's in 3 dimensions. You've got a kink. It's in 3 dimensions, but it can roll along. It's actually rolling in space from in front of it and rolling out space and behind it.
Yeah, whatever that means. So it's leaving extra space behind it, and it's consuming space in front of it, whatever the fuck that means. And somehow the space, even though it's supposed to be a vacuum, has friction with the object. So when you move the space, you move the object somehow. Yet, the universe can expand, that is, more space can be injected without giving anything true velocities by their own theory. The expanding universe is really just an expansion in space. More space is being created between objects, but they don't gain any velocity from the experience. One doesn't go faster this way and one go faster that way because of the extra space. So somehow the space 1 minute it causes friction and the next minute no friction.
It's a translation process. It's like when dominoes fall, too. Tink, 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 tink. You see that? Where's the particle? It's the currently falling domino. It's another.
So again, if you want to use an ether, then be an etherist and explain that's what you believe. Okay, you believe it's a three-dimensional domino board. Okay, we'll go with that. And then explain to me how your wave things work, how you move all the dominoes in all directions and then all of a sudden retract all of those movements and say, no, I really just went over there. Explain to me how you do your superposition wooey nonsense with a matrix of dominoes, because you can't do it in any kind of sensible way. It doesn't make any sense. You can't function, you can't do your functions on the real universe and then pretend that was just a function, that was just an experiment. I didn't really do any of this other stuff. I did it to make a calculation and then I retracted it all and then started over again. I get to practice on the universe first. First I have a practice action, figure out what the right answer is, and then I do the real action. I mean, this is just crap as a theory. It makes no frickin' sense for me to have this wooey complex explanation when there's dirt simple ones.
Metaphor for it. And when you have a kink in a jewelry chain, you can roll that kink along and back, and it looks like a kink, but really it's different parts of the chain depending where you move it. That's how physics.
And what moves it? Amazing. It just moves all on its own. The nothing tells the something what to do.
Works. All of these little electrical threads, these little strong nuclear force threads.
No, more mush. Thread of ambiguous threadiness that makes things happen with the magical thread.
These weak nuclear force threads, whatever the basic threads of energy turn out to be in the quantum space.
Yeah, whatever. This has nothing to do with making a rational counter-argument to the points I made.
Those are the elements that allow translation from one position into the next position, whether it be your mass, your charge, or anything else.
And what evidence do you have for any of this crap? Absolutely none. You just made up this mushy pile of crap and you said, this God sounds so coherent to me. Well, it might sound coherent to you, but it doesn't sound anything like coherent to me. It sounds like just Goldilocks bullshit. It's less than Goldilocks. I mean, you know, the ambiguous vacuum, low pressure, inverted space went to the three-thread house, and the threads were in a thready kind of mood, and they decided to wrap themselves around Goldilocks and throw her in the pit of hell. I mean, what the hell is this story? You can't make any sense out of it.
Transitioning. Now you understand. Now you understand. Now I expect.
All right, so now you understand. He didn't cite a single experiment, didn't cite any information that could be valuable at all in terms of drawing conclusions about the fundamental properties of the universe. Didn't explain why Einstein was wrong, about the particle part anyway. Didn't explain how when you do the experiments there does seem to be some element to these things. Photon, it's not something, it's not one thing, it's not one continuous wave thing. It's a thing that clearly imposes energy at a frequency, and that's what the wave part. The only significance of the wave is that it interrupts. It acts on something at a frequency, just like me poking a pendulum. I can poke the pendulum and destructively, or I can poke the pendulum constructively. I mean, it's as simple as that. It's as simple as pushing a kid on a swing. You know, you push them when they're moving towards you, they won't swing higher. You know, simple, 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 simple. And he talks all this rubbish.
You will never disagree with my positions again because I have described them so clearly.
Okay. Well, complete waste of. I mean, I can't even describe what a rubbish pile of shit video this is. Baby talk. Why not just have an absolute? Why just go get a baby? Get a 4-year-old to babble incoherently about their theory of the universe, and you couldn't do any worse than this. This was so vacuous and shitty. I mean, it's just the worst pile of crap I've ever seen as a science video. Honest statement. I've never seen a video pretending to be scientific that was ever worse than this. Let's see if there's any comments. 6. Amazing. Awesome content, my guy. Tim must be one of those spammer guys, right? So let's go to Tim's channel. No doubt a spammer. Yeah, gain links fast, gain views fast. So hilarious. And let's see, Pyrrho responded. Let's see what he responded with. You are very insightful for what is no doubt a bot. Oh, so he wasted time communicating with a spammer. He endorsed the spam, essentially, which is just such a waste of time, right? When you can just hit the appropriate button pointing out that this guy shouldn't be rewarded for his behavior. But no. See, this is Pyrrho's nest building, and his way of building civilization is to do none of the things required to have a civilization. He can't man up and be a vegetarian, even though he knows he's torturing the animals, right? It's like he can't clean up any mess. And this is a simple, obnoxious, this is a guy trying to destroy civilization, essentially, trying to parasitically feed off it. It's a tick. He's a fucking Lyme tick. And Pyrrho isn't clever enough to say, well, I don't like being abusive to anything, but yes, Lyme ticks have to be stopped, blah, blah, blah. And he does nothing. He encourages it. Way to go, asshole. Let's see. Hi, Pyrrho. Will you link in Mendham's video or channel, please? So some asshole who can't figure out, draft physics. Just amazing. I'm sub to him, but I don't see any new vids. So, these people are so dumb, and you're just saying, why, is that all I have to communicate with? Is people this stupid, right? I mean, donotgod.com is right in every single one of my last, my videos on the In Mendham channel for the last, 5 years. It's right there. I say in the last video on the In Mendham channel, yeah, my channel has strikes. I can't make videos on this channel anymore, so I'm going to be making them on my website. I mean, I say the words, and these people still can't follow along. I mean, it's just amazingly stupid. So Tim made 2 comments saying exactly the same thing, so he left the stupid spam, 2 pieces of spam from the same spammer. He'll get rewarded for that, Pyrrho. If you leave the comment and you interact with it, he's going to get rewarded for that. Fucking moron. All right, so I'm sorry. I mean, it just you couldn't have found something you can't make anything scientific, rational, reasonable. You can't have any reasonable conversation about your wooey thread theory. Sorry, I can't do anything with that. I first can't understand it. You don't even tie the ends of the thread to anything. I mean, how can I do anything with that? It's just so empty and vacuous. All right. So, enough of a video. And unfortunate. I didn't know it was going to be that lame. Sorry. Just awful. Complete waste of time.